Mic check 1 2, microphone check 1 2. There are a lot of strange things happening in the world today. One of those strange things is AI making pop songs. Let me just say right from the start, I apologize for my voice. I'm a little under the weather, but I really wanted to make this video. I saw this CBS morning show piece or whatever it was about, it had Rick Beato on there, who I love, and his rants on Apple in particular are some of my favorites. But it had this whole AI artist, Sadie Winters or something, and they ran through a list of some other artists, the Velvet Sundown, which is apparently supposed to be a band. This is all just AI. And it was very interesting, the way it's all framed. I mean, the fact that the technology can do all this, that's interesting in and of itself. But the way that the media frames it all, I think it's really useful to keep in perspective, first of all, like what they really do, what the media is in business to do. And they are in the winding up business. That's what they do. And so they have these pieces where they go in and they take some artist and they play some kind of AI generated thing, and then they say, you know, hasn't your soul been crushed and you're falling to pieces because the whole AI has stolen your soul from you and everything that you're about, it's taken it away, right? And you see a lot of people who kind of go along with it. I was watching a 60 Minutes Australia piece with this singer artist, Tina Arena, I think is her name. And that piece was titled by 60 Minutes Australia, "Replaced by AI." Replaced by AI. You know, and the title alone tells you they're in the winding up business. Because has Tina Arena and her music been replaced by anything? Could it ever? But so the piece started with a voiceover where they said, and I will quote, like all artists, Tina's livelihood is under threat from a faceless and immeasurable competitor, artificial intelligence. So right off the bat, like the very first part of it, like all artists, Tina's livelihood is under threat. First of all, I'm almost 50 years old, and my entire life has been nothing but really doing music and art. And everyone that I know is an artist of some type. If I know them closely, they're a musician, visual artist, something like this. Almost everyone. And almost everyone I know couldn't really say that they make their whole livelihood on the art. And that's just the truth of it. Even in the case where you can play music for money, I would contend that most of the people I know, including myself, would say that most of the music that you played to make your money, you couldn't really call it your art. Maybe it's somebody else's art, but maybe it's also wedding gigs, which is not art. So anyway, there's all that. Like, just right off the bat, the framing of it, the framing where they say, like all artists, Tina's livelihood is under threat from a faceless and immeasurable competitor. It's amazing, really. And so I was watching some other stuff with David Balducci, the author there, where he was doing a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on AI industry's mass ingestion of copyrighted works. That's what it was technically called, apparently. Something of that. But it's basically, you know, him going on about how the AI is just stealing everything from him. And this was the way it was presented there with that artist, Tina Arena. And also in the CBS piece there, they interviewed a Nashville singer-songwriter. And she seemed to have the same kind of sentiment of like, this is taking something from us. And while that might be true, it's taking something from you. The idea that it's taking away your art or your soul is just baseless. It's impossible. It can't take this away from you. And here's where we kind of come to the crux of this idea of like, are we talking about copyright and intellectual property rights, which hinges on money making, or are we talking about your art making? What's it taking from you exactly? Because if you're talking about money, that's something else. That's something else. And it's fine to have that conversation. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I kept hearing a lot of was conflating the taking my art with the taking my money. And that's different. And I heard that from Balducci, however you pronounce his name. I heard that from Tina Arena. Because I would contend that what you find is a lot of people who have been able to make a lot of money on their art, if they see it this way, they feel that by not being able to make as much money on their art, or potentially not, they're afraid of that, there's kind of a fallacy of equivocation that happens between the money making and the art making. And I would contend that that's the whole thing, that none of this is about your art. And I would just encourage everyone to think about it that way, that like, number one, the media is in the winding up business, and number two, there's a equivocation or a kind of conflating art making and money making, and to not fall for it, to not think of it this way, because it's not the reality of how it is. And I think a good analogy or an example would be this: to imagine that technology can create a robot, a humanoid type robot, that can run marathons. And it can run hundreds of marathons back to back, faster than any human being. It can win them all. It can win them all. Does that therefore mean that human beings don't need to run marathons anymore? The whole idea of marathon running has just completely been stolen, replaced by AI. AI can never replace running marathons. It just can't do it. AI can't take your art from you. It can make all kinds of things that sound similar and this and that, but it can't steal anything from you other than perhaps your ability to make money from it. Money, yes. Your art, no. But money is a funny thing, and it's always been a funny thing. And it's not a coincidence that the first bullet point that Trump made at the signing of the White House AI action plan, he said that it will make America richer. AI will make America richer. Money. And then adding, it will make America richer, stronger, greater, freer, more powerful. Note that none of that is about art making or anything like that. It's not really even about intellectual property right. It's about money making. It's only about intellectual property right insofar as that ties to making you some money or someone some money. And this idea of making someone some money and not the artist, this is nothing new either. Record labels have been screwing artists out of their money since the beginning of the record industry, really. That's nothing new at all. So the idea of some big entity kind of dipping their hands too far into your money that you're making on your art and kind of taking it away from you, pulling the rug out from under you, that's nothing new in certainly the music industry, but probably in art in general. Because making money from art is kind of funny, and it's tricky, and it's always been that way. And you know, that kind of also goes into the whole idea of all the money falling out of the music industry with Napster and the streaming and the ability to, or the fact that if you can email it, stream it, or download it, it becomes very hard to make money on it without having a huge infrastructure that underpins it, which then kind of funnels it all into the fat cat's pockets because they're the ones with the infrastructure to be able to set it all up. And all that stuff's nothing new. That's all the same. You think about recording studios closing left and right because all of a sudden people can, record on their laptops. Like all of that technology sort of pulling the rug out of various aspects of music making and art making and this and that. Again, we're just talking about money. We're not talking about your art. So it's fine and good and everything to discuss intellectual property right and how that relates to your work and copyright, intellectual property right, and everything else. But if you're talking about something else, about like this technology that's all of a sudden being able to do something with music and art that's taking something away from you, it has been said before that like a lot of those arguments are the same thing, ring the same as arguments that were made about synthesizers. Synthesizers are taking sequencers, drum machines, all of this kind of stuff. Oh, it's taking all the music away somehow. And it was funny to me in one of those CBS pieces where they interviewed this country and western singer-songwriter, and she was upset about it all. But country and western music is one of the most egregious formula type musics. I mean, they literally have like a checklist, and it's nothing new. You know, it's like, hey, tractor, we got to get this in the song. Tractor, check. Cold beer, check. You know, boots, check. 4x4 pickup truck, check. Oh, wait a minute, we can't forget about the Midwest. Cornfield, check. And, you know, there have even been like comedy songs about like country music pandering to audiences and going through the checklist to create the song to make sure that it hits just all the right areas. So, you know, if the computer is just doing that better, you can't be too mad at the computer, in my opinion. But the point being there is, when you hear all of this talk about all these topics, just remind yourself that it can't take anything from you, because that is your music. It is your art. And just know that if there is some kind of conflating of your art making and your money making, just to keep those separate and make sure that you understand what is really being discussed. Is it really being discussed about somebody's ability to make money with it, or what's really being discussed is something taking away your art from you, devaluing that in some way? Is it devaluing your bank account, or is it devaluing your art making? Because those are two different things. And it will be my opinion that a robot can never really run a marathon for you.